Hi, thanks for joining us again today for our devotional as we do a week of devotionals leading up to Resurrection Sunday. When we think about the resurrection, we generally think of words such as hope, life, overcoming death. What we don't think about so much are words like anger, hatred, bitterness, betrayal, jealousy. But those are the things we see in the week leading up to Jesus' death. We see it throughout every story that touches him as he goes through that week and has been brought before Pilate and ultimately crucified. We see the religious leaders jealous of the people's approval of Jesus, taking out their anger and hatred upon him. We see the crowd yelling, "Crucify him," as mankind in general just takes out the angst and anger that's inside of us on Jesus. That's the reason that Jesus died. That's the whole reason he could be there on the cross at the very end and say, "It is finished." Because it was all those things that he came to die for, to cover those things. He came to bring redemption from those things. As we look at the week leading up to it, there's one character in particular that one of these things happens to that it really stands out to me, and that's Peter. See, Peter was one of Jesus' own disciples. He loved Jesus by his own admission. He said, "Jesus, I love you. I'll do anything for you. I will die for you." And Peter loved Jesus, and yet he's caught in the midst of this betrayal. Let's look at the scripture. And we're going to be in Matthew chapter 26, verses 33 and 36 first. This takes up where we left off yesterday when Jesus and his disciples have just left the Passover, and they've gone out to the Mount of Olives, and they are headed towards the Garden of Gethsemane. And Jesus has already told his disciples, at least the 11 that are still there with him, that things are going to happen tonight that you're going to be offended by me. And notice Peter's response to that. He says, Peter answered and said to him, "Though all men shall be offended because of thee, yet will I never be offended." Jesus said unto him, "Verily I say unto thee, that this night before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice." Peter said unto him, "Though I should die with thee, yet will I not deny thee." Likewise also said all the disciples. Then cometh Jesus with them unto a place called Gethsemane, and saith unto the disciples, "Sit ye here, while I go and pray yonder." You see, Peter responded the way I think a lot of us would as well. When Jesus said, "You're going to be offended by me. There's things going to happen that cause you to question our relationship and to question whether you know me and what I'm about." And Peter said, "Oh, no, not me, Lord. I will do anything for you." But when you look at Peter's response there, it was a dangerous one. You know, for us to say today, "Oh, I would die for Jesus," it doesn't mean a whole lot in our context, in our society, because we're not asked to die for Jesus. You know, for those of us here in the U.S., especially in the Bible Belt, we're not tortured because we believe in Jesus. We're not ridiculed because we believe in Jesus. We're not asked to give up our life because of him. And yet when Peter said that, he was talking to Jesus saying, "You're the Messiah. You're going to become the king of Israel." He very well believed that that might involve revolution. That might involve war. That might involve him fighting for Jesus. And he was saying, "I'm willing to do that, Jesus. I'm willing to go all the way to the point of death." You know, it raises the question to me, how committed to God are we? Could we say, Jesus doesn't ask us to die for him, but he does ask us to live for him? Can we say, "Jesus, I love you so much, I'll do anything you ask me to do"? That's a big question, isn't it? That's a big challenge to say, "I'll do whatever you ask, Jesus." But that's the kind of obedience he wants out of us because of what he's done for us. And I think like Peter, many of us would say that, "Yes, Jesus, I'll do whatever it takes for you." Let's look at the results Peter had, and let's examine whether we might have similar results in our lives. And jumping down to verse 69, after Jesus has been taken away and brought before Pilate, verse 69 shows us, "Now Peter sat without in the palace, and a damsel came unto him, saying, Thou also was with Jesus of Galilee. But he denied before them all, saying, I know not what thou sayest. And when he was gone out into the porch, another maid saw him, and said unto him that were there, This fellow was also with Jesus of Nazareth. And again he denied with an oath, I did not know the man. And after a while came in to him they that stood by, and said to Peter, Surely thou art also one of them, for thy speech betrayeth thee. Then began he to curse and to swear, saying, I know not the man. And immediately the cock crew, and Peter remembered the words of Jesus, which said unto him, Before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. And he went out and wept bitterly. Such a sad story. Peter, who only moments before had said, Jesus, I will fight for you. I will die with you if necessary. All he's asked to do at this point is say, hey, do you know this man? No, I think you were with him. And Peter says, no, I don't know him. Peter's concerned about what might happen to him, about Jesus just being arrested. And I believe Peter when he said that he loved Jesus so much he would do whatever. Remember when Jesus was arrested in the garden? What did Peter do? He pulled out his sword and cut the ear off of one of the attendants that was there. And then Jesus stopped him and said, no, that's not how this is going to play out. And Jesus heals the man's ear. And so Jesus is arrested and the disciples flee. So Jesus, I believe Peter honestly meant it when he said he would fight for Jesus. He was ready for a revolution. He was ready to do whatever it took to make him the Messiah and let him be the king of Israel. But he didn't understand what Jesus was doing. And then he gets here in this situation and people are saying, oh, you were with him. All he has to do is admit to being one of Jesus' disciples, and he can't even do that. And it says he went out and he wept bitterly. Are we guilty of that sometimes as Christians? I'm reminded of the quote from Brennan Manning that speaks to that. It says, the greatest single cause of atheism in the world today is Christians who acknowledge Jesus with their lips, to walk out the door and deny him by their lifestyle. That is what an unbelieving world simply finds unbelievable. And I believe Brennan's right there, that so many times we're given the opportunity to show Christ to the world around us, and our lifestyle denies him. It doesn't act like we know him at all. And in fact, it makes people wonder if maybe we've ever known him. Let's look at what happened next. In John chapter 21, verse 15, we pick up after the resurrection, after Jesus has already appeared to his disciples. And in this case, he has appeared to them again on a shore, and he's cooked some fish, and he's invited them in to eat with him. In verse 15, it says, so when they had dined, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? He saith unto him, yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, feed my lambs. He saith to him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He saith unto him, yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, feed my sheep. He saith unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Peter was grieved because he said unto him the third time, lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. Jesus said to him, feed my sheep. Verily, verily, I say unto thee, when thou wast young, thou girdest thyself, and walked whither thou wouldest. When thou shalt be old, thou shalt stretch forth thine hands, and another shall gird thee, and shall carry thee whither thou wouldest not go. This spake he, signifying by what death he should glorify God. And when he had spoken this, he said unto him, follow me. You see, Jesus is bringing up this question to Peter 3 times, not to try to prod and bring up a sore wound. He's bringing it up again and again and again to remind Peter that in spite of your biggest failure, I have plans for you. I intend to use you. Notice there in verse 18 what he said there. There's going to come a time when things are going to get tough for you. He's saying, I've got plans for you, and I intend to use you for the kingdom. You know, that's the beauty of this, is that Jesus is basically saying, Peter, in spite of your failure that hurts so much even when I bring it up, in spite of your failure that had you weeping bitterly, I want to use you, because that's what the cross was all about. It was about forgiving those past failures, forgiving that sin. It was about redeeming all of that and saying, we're starting over, and I'm going to use you from this point forward. Do you have things in your past that are holding you back? Failures that you keep looking back to and saying, God can't use me because of this, this, or this. Or God doesn't want to use me because I'm through this, this, or this. All those lies that we tell ourselves about why God wouldn't possibly want to use us. And Jesus is saying, do you love me? If so, serve me. If so, follow me. Because I have plans for you, and I have things I'm going to use you for the kingdom. Let those things in the past go. Let that big failure that's holding you back, the things you're embarrassed to even talk about, let those kind of be just in the past and say, you know what? That's what the cross was all about, because God even covered that. God was so gracious that he even looked beyond the things that I could do that were so hard and so ridiculous and so bad that I don't even want to mention it. And he can use me in spite of who I was before the cross. That's the power of the resurrection.